My name is Alaina, and I donated a kidney to save my sister's life. But while I lay in a hospital bed, barely able to walk, she was in mine, my husband's bed. When I found out, I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I planned. And when the truth came out, they both wished I'd never saved her. If you've ever been betrayed by the people you loved most, you'll understand every tear, every sleepless night, and every ounce of revenge in this story. So hit that like button, subscribe to Shadow of Revenge, and let's dive into one of the most twisted betrayals, and the sweetest justice, you'll ever hear. I donated my kidney to save my sister's life. But what she did while I was recovering destroyed everything I thought I knew about love, loyalty, and family. If you've ever been betrayed by your own blood, you'll understand what it feels like to breathe but not really live. Growing up, I was the fixer. The dependable one. My sister, Emily, was the golden child, the one who could do no wrong. Our parents adored her. I just existed in the background, the quiet shadow that picked up the pieces she left behind. When she failed her college exams, I helped her study. When she crashed Mom's car, I paid for the repairs. And when her kidneys began failing, I didn't think twice. I stepped forward before anyone could even ask. The doctors said she needed a living donor, someone with a compatible blood type. We were a match. It's risky, they told me. You'll need months to recover. But Emily's eyes were full of fear that day, and something inside me broke. She was my sister. My blood. I couldn't let her die. The night before the operation, she squeezed my hand and whispered, "You're saving my life, Alaina." I'll never forget this. Those words replayed in my head as I drifted into anesthesia, her voice, soft and grateful, echoing like a promise I thought would bind us forever. When I woke up, the world felt heavy. Pain tore through my side like fire. Every breath was work. Tubes ran from my arms, machines beeped around me, and the ceiling lights blurred into white halos. Ethan, my husband, sat beside me, his hand wrapped around mine. His smile was gentle, his voice calm. "You did it," he said softly. "She's going to be okay." I smiled weakly, too weak to speak. I believed him, believed both of them. For weeks, my body fought to heal. Stitches pulled, muscles ached, sleep never lasted more than an hour at a time. But every moment I told myself it was worth it. My sister was alive. She was smiling again. That was enough. Or at least, it should have been. Something changed after the surgery. Ethan was distant, polite, but colder. He said he was helping Emily adjust, driving her to appointments, checking her meds. My mother called often, gushing about how amazing he was. "Ethan's been such a support for Emily," she'd say. "She's so lucky to have him around." Lucky to have him around. Why did that sentence feel like a blade under my ribs? One afternoon, while Ethan was running errands, I called Emily. She didn't pick up. Hours later, she texted, "Sorry. Busy with follow-ups." No heart emoji, no warmth. Just flat words from the sister who once called me her hero. The next morning, Mom dropped by with soup. She smiled, chatting casually. "You know," she said, "Ethan and Emily stopped by the market together yesterday." She looked so happy. I laughed awkwardly. "Oh, really?" "Yes," she nodded. "You're lucky to have a husband who cares for your sister like that." My chest tightened. Something inside me cracked that day, something small, but sharp enough to let the doubt in. 2 weeks later, Ethan left his tablet on the couch. I wasn't snooping, at least not at first. I just wanted to watch something while eating. But the screen lit up on its own, a notification from Emily. A photo. I froze. My hand hovered over the tablet for a second before tapping it open. My heart pounded so hard I could hear it echoing in my ears. The image loaded slowly, first the curve of a shoulder, then the outline of a familiar shirt. Ethan's shirt. And the woman wearing it was Emily. Her hair fell over one side of her face. Her smile was soft, private, the kind you only share with someone you love. I didn't feel the tears at first. Just a strange silence, a stillness so deep it hurt more than any wound. My body went cold. Then I scrolled up. There were messages. She's asleep. I can't wait to see you again. You looked beautiful last night. And then hers, soon, baby. I promise we'll be together properly. My breath came in shallow gasps. The walls blurred around me. It felt like drowning in daylight, gasping, sinking, while the world outside went on, oblivious. That night, I didn't confront him. I couldn't. My body was still too weak, my mind spinning with disbelief. He slept beside me, one arm draped across my waist, while I stared at the ceiling replaying every memory, every late meeting, every whispered call, every touch that suddenly felt foreign. The next morning, Emily came over. She looked radiant, glowing, alive, healthier than ever. She hugged me gently, her perfume sweet and nauseating. You look tired, she said. Are you okay? I wanted to scream. To tear off that perfect smile. But I only nodded. Just healing, I whispered. Oh, I know how that feels, she said, sipping her coffee like nothing was wrong. But it's amazing, isn't it? Getting a second chance at life. I stared at her across the table. You're lucky, I said quietly. She smiled. I guess I am. When she left, I sat in silence for hours. My stitches burned, but not half as much as the ache in my chest. I thought of the years I spent protecting her, of the kidney inside her body, my kidney, keeping her alive while she stole everything else that mattered to me. I realized something then. People talk about heartbreak like it's an emotion. It's not. It's physical. It's the sound of your own heartbeat slowing, the taste of salt in your throat, the weight pressing against your lungs so hard you forget how to breathe. But that night, lying awake, I made myself a promise. I wouldn't scream. I wouldn't beg. I would heal quietly. And when the time was right, I'd make them both wish I hadn't saved her life. The days that followed felt like walking through a movie I couldn't pause. Ethan smiled the same, spoke the same, even kissed my forehead before leaving for work. But everything had changed. Every word from his mouth now sounded rehearsed, every touch left me cold. I became an actress in my own home, pretending not to know, pretending to heal, pretending to trust. But beneath the silence, something darker grew. I needed proof. Something undeniable. I started small. Checking call logs, receipts, messages he forgot to delete. Every clue was a piece of a puzzle that made my stomach turn. He had booked hotel rooms under fake names. Restaurants I'd never been to but she had, I saw her tagged in the background of photos her friends posted. It was like watching my own life rewritten by someone else. One evening, while Ethan showered, I picked up his phone again. I knew the passcode by heart. My hands were shaking. I searched Emily. The screen filled with messages, voice notes, photos, hearts. She had even saved his contact as my anchor. I played one of the voice messages. Her voice was soft, intimate. Don't worry, baby. She'll never suspect a thing. I'll tell everyone it just happened. They'll accept it. We'll be a family. My blood ran cold. A family. I didn't cry this time. I didn't even flinch. My body had gone past pain, straight into something sharper. Focused. I saved every file, every photo, every chat. I sent copies to a secret drive he didn't know existed. 2 days later, I made an appointment with a private investigator. His name was Carl, quiet, professional, the kind of man who didn't ask for explanations. I gave him both of their photos and said only one thing. I want the truth. All of it. He nodded slowly. You're sure you want to see it? I met his gaze. I donated my kidney for her. I think I've earned the truth. It took him 4 days. 4 long, silent days. I spent them sitting by the window, pretending to read, pretending to rest while my heart rotted inside me. When Carl called, his voice was calm. "I have what you asked for. You should see it in person." He slid a folder across the table. I opened it, and for a moment, the air left my lungs. Photos. Ethan and Emily holding hands at a beachside hotel. Checking in together. Having dinner by candlelight. One picture caught them walking out in the morning, Ethan's hand resting gently on her stomach. Carl's voice was distant. "She's pregnant." The room tilted. The world blurred. My body felt weightless. Pregnant. She had my kidney inside her, and now she was carrying my husband's child. I whispered, "How long?" "Roughly 6 weeks, Carl said. "Conceived right after your surgery." Right after my surgery. While I was hooked to 4 lines, fighting pain, barely able to move, they were together. I closed the folder carefully, my hands trembling but my face expressionless. "Thank you," I said quietly. "That's all I need." That night, I sat in front of the mirror again, the same mirror where I'd once brushed my hair, dreaming about love and loyalty. My reflection looked like a stranger. Pale. Still. Eyes too dark, too quiet. I whispered to the woman staring back at me, "You saved her life, and she used it to destroy yours." But somewhere deep inside, a new voice answered, calm, steady, dangerous. "Not anymore." That was the moment the pain turned into purpose. I deleted nothing. I changed nothing. I smiled when Ethan kissed me goodnight. I congratulated Emily on her new chapter. I even baked her favorite pie the next time she visited. Because revenge isn't about screaming or breaking things. It's about waiting. And watching them fall apart under their own lies. I learned something in those weeks: silence scares guilty people more than anger ever could. The quieter I became, the more they fidgeted, explaining things I never asked about, overcompensating with fake concern. They were building their own trap, and all I had to do was let them. Ethan started coming home later. "Work meetings," he said. Emily started dropping by more often. Checking on your recovery, she'd smile, touching my arm like she still cared. Every time she looked at me, I wondered if she could feel my kidney working inside her, pumping blood through a body that had betrayed me. But I smiled back. Sweet. Harmless. Grateful. I played the role perfectly. One night, while Ethan showered, I slipped his phone under the warm glow of the lamp and recorded a backup of everything: photos, texts, voice notes. Then I placed it back exactly where it had been, like a ghost that left no footprints. By morning, I had it all safely stored on an encrypted drive, a digital time bomb waiting for the right moment. I needed patience. I needed to be smart. So I began studying them, their routines, their lies, their cracks. Ethan always checked his email at 8 p.m., right after dinner. Emily always called him at midnight when she thought I was asleep. They were predictable. Predictability is weakness. Then came the announcement. Emily showed up one afternoon, glowing with false innocence, her hand resting on her belly. "I need to tell you something," she said softly. "You're going to be an aunt." Her voice wavered slightly, maybe fear, maybe guilt, but she masked it well. My breath caught in my throat, but I forced a smile. "That's wonderful, Emily. Congratulations." She looked stunned, like she'd been bracing for a fight. But I offered none. I reached out, gently touched her hand, and whispered, "You deserve to be happy." Inside, I could feel something shifting. She thought she'd broken me, but she didn't realize she had just awakened the most dangerous version of me, the woman who no longer had anything left to lose. From that day, my revenge began quietly. I started planting seeds. Our family had a small inheritance fund from our late father, a trust that Emily and I were supposed to share equally once we both married. The documents were locked in my mother's safe, and Emily never cared about the legal side of things. She just assumed everything would be handled for her, like always. I called our family lawyer, pretending to discuss some financial planning. I told him about the betrayal, about the pregnancy. He was horrified, and loyal to me. Together, we revised the inheritance terms, legally shifting Emily's share into a delayed clause that wouldn't activate until certain moral and marital conditions were met. Simply put, if Emily's affair became public before her marriage, she'd lose her entire claim. And since Ethan was still my legal husband, that condition was guaranteed. The papers were signed quietly. No one suspected a thing. Days passed. I played my part beautifully. I even invited Emily and Ethan for dinner, my first real meal since the surgery. They both showed up awkwardly polite, pretending to care, pretending not to know that I knew. We sat around the table, laughter echoing falsely through the room. I served roasted chicken, wine, candles. At one point, Emily looked at me and said, "You've really bounced back, Alaina. You're glowing." I smiled, meeting her eyes. Maybe I finally learned what's worth keeping inside me. Ethan coughed, shifting uncomfortably. Emily looked confused for a second, then forced a laugh. That night, I cleared the dishes slowly, watching them through the reflection of the kitchen window, their stolen glances, their quiet guilt. Every detail was feeding my fire. When they left, I opened my laptop. Every message, every photo, every proof I'd collected was neatly organized. I stared at it all, their affair, their betrayal, their child. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. I could destroy them in one click. Send everything to our family, his company, her friends. But that would be too easy. Too merciful. No, I wanted them to destroy each other. And that, I realized, would take just one small, carefully planted truth. The day I chose to strike wasn't dramatic on the surface. It was my mother's 60th birthday, the one day the whole family gathered, all the old resentments polished into polite smiles. I baked the cake. I set the table. I wore a dress that made me look harmless, the kind of dress people forget is sharp until it cuts. Ethan and Emily arrived hand in hand, faces composed like actors on opening night. Mom fussed with the napkins, proud and unaware that she was about to watch her favorite story unravel. I'd asked the family lawyer, Mr. Hale, to come to finalize a few details. He sat quietly in the living room, folder on his lap, eyes sympathetic. I'd printed the evidence, photographs, voice notes, hospital timestamps, the investigator's report, every piece arranged in clean, brutal order. The inheritance amendment sat on the table, signed and notarized weeks earlier, a paper that would swallow Emily's claim if her impropriety became public before marriage. We ate. We smiled. Conversation hummed like a radio in the background. When the cake came, I stood. My heart rattled but my face felt steady, practiced. "Before we cut this," I said, and the room stilled. My voice didn't shake, it was cold and precise. "There's something I need to share. It's about honesty. About family. About promises." Emily's smile thinned. Ethan's jaw tightened. Mom's hand froze on the fork. I asked Mr. Hale to read a short statement. He cleared his throat and began, voice formal and careful, the kind of voice that strips excuses bare. He explained the trust amendment, the moral clause, and the consequences should it be triggered. He didn't mention names. He didn't have to. Then I slid the folder across the table. "Proof," I said. "Photos, messages, timestamps." Carl collected them. "They show what happened while I was recovering, when I gave my sister my kidney so she could live." The room pitched into a sound like a held breath breaking. The photographs went from hand to hand, Emily and Ethan's shirt, hotel receipts, voice notes with the words I'd already heard 100 times in private. Mr. Hale recited the investigator's findings: conception dated within weeks of my surgery, hotel check-ins, corroborated witness accounts. Emily covered her face. Ethan stammered for words that wouldn't come. Mom's eyes filled with something that looked like denial and then terror. "You can't," Ethan began, but the sound was small in that room. He reached for my hand as if to anchor himself. I didn't pull away. I let him reach and feel nothing. You betrayed me, I said simply. My throat pressed with the weight of every sleepless night, every needle, every quiet prayer I'd made in my hospital bed. You used my sacrifice as your ladder. They tried to bargain. Promises spilled from them like water, apologies, explanations, confessions that begged for forgiveness. Emily cried, a raw, animal sound that used to be reserved for me. Ethan pleaded, voice thin and ugly. Mr. Hale closed the folder and looked at them both. Under the terms we signed, he said, this matter, if publicly proven as such, nullifies the claim. The trust is clear. I watched the light drain from Emily's face. She understood in a second what she'd gambled and lost, not just money, but her mother's pride, her place in the family she'd always owned by default. Ethan's face went gray, the guilt and panic were the only honest things left on him. When they left that night, it wasn't together. Ethan begged in the hallway. Emily fell to the floor in the foyer and sobbed until her breaths were small and broken. Mom looked at me once, and I saw love and horror and 1,000 tiny betrayals flicker across her features. I didn't feel triumphant in the way the movies promise. There was no gloating smile. What rose inside me was quieter, a hollow relief, like the slow exhale after holding your breath underwater for too long. My body finally accepted its own rhythm again. I'd taken their future and held it up to the light. It shattered. They would have to pick up the pieces themselves. And for the first time in months, I slept without the taste of bile in my mouth. Weeks passed after that night, and the house felt quieter than ever. Not the fragile silence of pain anymore, but the calm that follows a storm. The kind of quiet that lets you finally breathe without tasting blood. Ethan moved out the next morning. He didn't pack much, just a few clothes and the guilt that would follow him for years. He left a note on the kitchen counter, I'm sorry, Alaina. You didn't deserve any of this. I stared at it for a long time, then threw it in the trash. Sorry was a word too cheap for what he'd taken. As for Emily, the fallout was brutal. Our mother couldn't even look at her. The family friends she'd once bragged to turned their backs. The inheritance she'd been counting on vanished overnight. Her reputation, her comfort, her perfect life, all gone. A month later, I heard she'd lost the baby. Some part of me wanted to feel sympathy, but I couldn't. Maybe that makes me cruel, but pain teaches you boundaries. I'd already given her enough of me. I spent those months rebuilding my life piece by piece. I joined a recovery support group, people who'd given organs and felt forgotten afterward. They understood the strange mix of gratitude and grief that comes with sacrifice. For the first time in a long time, I didn't feel invisible. Every now and then, I'd drive past the lake near our father's old cabin. It used to be our childhood escape. Emily and I would sit on the dock, our feet dangling in the water, promising we'd always protect each other. I went there once more, alone this time. The water rippled softly, reflecting the fading sky. I whispered into the wind, you almost broke me, Emily. But you didn't. The revenge hadn't given me happiness. It gave me something else, clarity. It taught me that forgiveness and justice aren't the same thing. Forgiveness is freedom for the heart, justice is peace for the mind. And sometimes, peace only comes after fire. 6 months later, the lawyer called again. The inheritance fund, now entirely mine, had matured. He asked if I wanted to withdraw it. I smiled through the phone and said, no rush. Let it grow. Because for once, I wasn't rushing to fix someone else's life. I was finally living mine. I sold the house Ethan and I had shared, donated part of the proceeds to a kidney foundation, and moved into a small coastal home overlooking the ocean. I wake up to waves now instead of lies. My scar still aches sometimes when it rains, a thin reminder of what I gave, and what I lost. But when I trace it with my fingers, I don't feel regret. I feel power. I gave my sister life. She tried to take mine. But I took it back. And maybe that's the truest revenge of all, not destroying someone else, but reclaiming yourself completely. So when people ask if I'd do it all over again, I tell them this. I'd still donate my kidney. I just wouldn't give my trust so easily next time. Because scars fade. But lessons don't. If this story gave you chills, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to Shadow of Revenge for more powerful stories of justice, betrayal, and redemption. And tell me in the comments, do you think Alaina's revenge was enough, or would you have done more?